Tamara is an Unreal Engine Silver Authorized partner with Epic Games. They provide industry training for virtual production and game development with clients across North America. Tamara recently was a CG lead and technical art with CG Pro for a VR cinematic experience, Meditate Like a Dolphin. That sounds pretty cool. They are passionate about supporting the community and opening opportunities for those beginning their journey in the industry. Everyone, please welcome Tamara. I'm going to give you this to hold.
Awesome. Everybody hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Amazing. So I'm thrilled to be talking to you all today about a cinematic approach to game development and talking about lights, camera, and post-processing. So to start things off, how can film drive the creative decisions for game development? How can we take our inspirations of film and bring it into developing a really cool game over the course of this weekend? Well, today we're going to be talking about lighting. The types of lighting like soft lights, hard lights, a highlight, a low light, and playing with silhouettes, as well as camera. We can look at different shot types, lenses, and compositions from our favorite films or TV shows. And as well, color is a big one. So looking at saturated, warm, cool, and mixed type of media. So I'm going to show you some resources that are going to take these points in the creative and visual design of your game and how you can implement film terms and techniques into game engines. So we're going to start things off with some resources for look development and how you can begin building mood boards, gaining inspiration to bring these into the game engine that you want to work in. So I want to bring up ShotDeck, which I'm obsessed with. ShotDeck is a cinematic image database. And what's great about it is you can search any type of shot that is within their database, and they provide a massive library, as well as on the left-hand side, they will have filters. You can filter from time of day, shot type, color. So you kind of get what I'm getting at here, right? We have something that we can already utilize based on those points that I was bringing out. And it also will have detailed information that we can easily transfer into game engines. So to kind of detail here, I'm clicking on a particular shot in ShotDeck on the bottom GIF at the bottom right-hand corner here, and there's information that ShotDeck provides that's going to help me recompose that scene into my gaming engine and allow me to create these ideas. So again, as I'm mentioning here, this is a great starting point for planning the overall mood and atmosphere of your game. It can also bring up ideas of gameplay and how to implement this as well. So another resource I want to bring up is physically based. And this is more so if you're really aiming for more of that photoreal, truly emulating film. So again, this is another database, but mostly for physically based values for CG artists. And what I love about physically based is it will also, for the materials and as well the lighting, there is Unity and Unreal snippets that you can grab and just paste into the engine. So it's really cool that we're able to use this database, and it's very quick and efficient to bring that in. But what I really personally like is their cameras. Based on ShotDeck, how we're able to pull camera information from that database, we can then use physically based to find a camera that matches our shot and bring that directly in engine as well. Another thing I want to bring up is lookup tables. Again, this is very film centric, but again, can be very valuable in terms of color correction and perhaps being a game mechanic that you implement in your game. If you're not sure what a lookup table is, again, it's mainly used for color correction, but it can also be a great way to change the overall look of your game, as well as incorporate into mechanics, as I mentioned earlier. But something I want to mention as well, what you can do is, for example, have a trigger volume that triggers this change and loads up a lookup table. Again, if you're using Unreal Engine, they do have documentation on how you can create your own lookup table. If there's anybody in this room that is familiar with Photoshop and making adjustments to your images, you can bring that into a LUT and directly in Engine as well. So there's a lot of multidisciplinary skills that you can use to bring this to life. So now let's talk about bringing this into Engine. So we know where we can find info on camera, color, and lighting. How does this all fit into Unreal Engine? Well, I'm going to first talk about the photo reel, and then I'll bring up a more stylized approach as well. So for my photo reel example, what I'm going to be mentioning here is less lights equals better lighting. You may be tempted to throw in a million lights into your scene, but again, really paying attention to what your lighting is doing in your scene is going to be, making it a lot more efficient as well. Using reference is really important as well. So here I'm taking a shot from The Matrix, and I found, fun fact, they did Decagon Studios did a pack, an entire scene for the Matrix demo. So I wanted to take this asset pack and see if I can recreate this scene and use all the tools at hand to recreate this in Unreal Engine. And some of the key words that I wanted to keep in mind when it comes to lighting is exactly what I pulled from Shot Deck. So thinking about that cool, desaturated, there's a lot of greens, blues, but most importantly, it's very soft light. The shadows are very soft and there's no hard shadowing in the reference image that I'm pulling. So lighting in Engine, what does this look like? Well, one of the things I want to talk about is not so much the amount of light that you're bringing into a scene, but how you are shaping the light and blocking the light in your scene. So blocking light is just as important as how much light is in your scene. It can really develop the mood and feelings that you're going for, as well can be a way to direct the player into a more into where they need to go to continue their journey in their game. As well, another point I bring here in the second GIF is every light should have a purpose, whether it's filling the room with light, it's a key light focusing on a specific area, perhaps it's providing more edge light so the player can also read the room quite easily and navigate around it. If you notice a light is not making a difference in your scene, delete it, get rid of it, you don't need it there. And as well, for anyone that is maybe familiar with Unreal Engine or just starting off, some of the important properties that you want to look in your lighting is the attenuation radius. That's going to control how much of an influence your light will have. The smaller it is, the more compact and harsh it will be. And the larger the attenuation radius, the more influence it will have on your scene. As well, you'll want to pay attention to the source width and height, and in other actors, it'll be the source radius. So that'll influence the hard and soft shadows of your lighting. Looking at our camera, again, using your knowledge of real-world cameras is going to come really handy, especially in Unreal Engine, because we can translate everything from Shot Deck into the engine as well. So important settings that I want you to keep in mind are the film back, lens settings, and crop settings. So here in this particular GIF, this image, I've just highlighted some of the modified properties that I've changed to influence the overall composition. So we can see in this image, I'm using the same film back and lens settings that I'm referencing from Shot Deck, but sometimes the engine isn't that smart. And so sometimes we have to use our own creative eye to match the composition that we're going for, as well as what the crop is doing here is it's matching. We can see there's two black bars above the image. That is making the aspect ratio of our image the same cropping style that we saw in Shot Deck. So if you want to be really specific, that's what those crop settings are for. And going over post-processing, probably one of my favorite features in color correcting in the engine. So again, this is to overall alter and enhance the color of a light in a scene. But the thing is with Unreal, what I want to mention here is you don't want to color all of your lights and then go to town with your post-processing. If you are planning to color grade, you want to keep your lighting at neutral values. This is going to make sure that you're able to color correct correctly, because if all of your lights are, say, green and pink and purple, and then you're trying to color correct and have an overall tone in your scene, it's not going to work out so well. Another thing with dealing with realism in Unreal and with the post-process volume is tone mapping. So you don't need to be an expert in, color grading and all of this, but tone mapping is just how the color is preserved from multiple formats and displays. But in Unreal, it's a great way to help control the shadows of our scene. And because if we were to just crank the contrast in our color correction, it's gonna look kind of muddy and bleh. So tone mapping is, again, another great way to influence those shadows and that contrast. But another one is exposure is really important. So if you're familiar with photography, exposure is going to determine, again, how light or dark a scene is. And again, with our real world camera, that's, again, various settings like our aperture, ISO, and pardon me, I'm losing my voice here. But the exposure in Unreal is also going to control the exposure values of our scene. We want to be mindful that we're not over or underexposing our scene. So if you realize that things look really washed out and too bright, that means it's overexposed. And underexposed will mean your scene is too dark. So you want to maintain a nice balance of exposure when you're working in photorealism. Last but not least, I do want to talk about stylization in Unreal Engine. Now, the fun thing that I do love about stylization is rules can be bent. But again, taking that knowledge of film will help create a foundation for your scene. So for example, dealing with composition, color, and as well lighting is going to help direct the scene that I'm trying to create. But then I could begin to bend the rules and make things appear less photoreal. And materials matter here. So I was aiming for a more Disney Sleeping Beauty vibe with the scene that I was building. And what I was realizing is I wanted to create something that looked very flat and very 2D. So again, thinking about your specular, metallic, and roughness values, you want to really avoid having any shininess in your materials. So again, think very matte if you're aiming for that very flat 2D look. And as well, fake it. Use painted textures. If you can, paint in Photoshop, utilize this to your advantage. And even, for example, with the God rays that I made in the background, I just applied a emissive effect to fake God rays with my directional light, because it's something that's not built in the engine. I had to make that myself. And I hope you enjoyed my talk about applying your amazing film knowledge now with game development, and I can't wait to see what kind of styles that you take from your inspirations into your games. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I do not talk much.